Hi, this is Fergal from Alba Physiotherapy, and welcome to our 6-week program on running and walking technique. So as we start getting into running technique, this is something that becomes very important for anyone who really wants to get back into it and just start doing a couple of kilometers, or someone who just has had lots of niggly injuries over the last while and wants to get back on top of the running, or someone who just wants to improve their running times over different distances. So looking at running, there's 5 little components to it that can make a big difference in regards to our technique. The first thing is regards our posture. So posture is something that we harp on about a lot as physios, but can make a big difference in our body alignment in regards to how we're taking stress in the body. So our head dictates a lot about how we're leaning our body into different positions. So ideally we want, if our head position, to have our ear over our shoulder over our hip, and a hip over our knee and ankle. That generally dictates how we're taking stress throughout the body. If our head is too far forward, then that can bring our body into a forward position, which again can lead to different aches and pains from developing. Second thing is that we want to open up our chest. Again, also looking at postural position. If we open up our chest, then it allows more movement for our shoulders. So our shoulder movement can help us to drive through and give us that forward drive, and it enables us to use our core a little bit more, which becomes very important as well. So looking at our arm movement, we want to have our arms locked out at a 90-degree angle for our elbows. So from here, we're looking at trying to move our arms back from our back pocket, coming up to around the level of our chin. Okay, we want to be able to make sure that we're bringing the hands along the line of the body, that we're not crossing the line, and we're not doing any sort of flicking motions of our elbows. The elbows should be locked at that 90-degree angle and going from back pocket up to our chin. We also need to have available movement from our hip joint. So when we're looking at our hip movements, we should have available movement going into hip flexion, but most importantly, we need to have movement going back into hip extension. So hip extension will allow us to engage the muscles of our glutes, which should help us to drive us forward, which will give us that forward propulsion motion, which is essential in being dynamic or being efficient with our movement patterns. So what we want to try and do with that is that we want to cycle our heels back. So as we're going through that motion, cycling our heels back allows us to get that heel lift up, to engage our glutes, but also we're extending our hips enough to, when we're bringing our foot through, that we land with our foot close to our center of gravity or close to our center of mass. Finally, looking at our landing strike. So landing strike becomes very important in regards to how much braking forces are being applied and how much stress is coming back up into the body. If we're landing with massive heel strike, then that can allow us to sort of come down hard, and then the stresses that are coming up from the ground, coming up into the heel, into the knee, can lead to us jarring our knee and often leads to injuries like shin splints, plantar fasciitis, can also lead to impingements in the hip then as well. So what we can do to negate that is going through our cycle motion of our heels, and that as we land, we should land more on our forefoot or else on our mid-stance position. Landing on a hard strike will also lead to those injuries cropping up. Lastly, we want to have our landing strike with our knee coming over the midline of the toes, so that we're minimizing the amount of stress building up. If we have something that where our knee starts coming over the big toe or starts deviating out across the midline, then that's likely to cause problems in our Achilles and our knee and possibly into our hip joint. So summarizing all of that, posture, we need to have chest open to allow shoulder movements. We need to have the elbows locked out at that 90-degree angle. We want to be able to engage through our core muscle groups to help us with our alignment and our ability to use our muscles around our shoulder and our hips. We need to have available movement going into hip extension to allow ourselves to cycle our heels back. And then we're looking at then that final thing, which is going into that landing strike, is that we want to land more so on mid stance and the forefoot, and we want to land in a position where the foot is close to our center of gravity or center of mass, that we're not providing too much stress on the rest of the body. It can be difficult to put all that into practice, so give yourself a little bit of time. Start off maybe doing a little bit of a walk run, 1 minute walking, 1 minute running, so that you can really focus on what you need to do to implement all those different things and trying to make them more of a habit. As you get more comfortable, then you can increase your time and then start applying that more and more and to try and make that more of your running technique. We give ourselves 6 weeks, because 6 weeks can be the time frame that we need to allow our brain to start functioning and start memorizing these different movements to try and make it more of a habit. So best of luck into putting that to practice. If you have any questions at all, feel free to get in touch with us here at Alba Physiotherapy and we'll be glad to answer. And we look forward to putting that into practice over the next 6 weeks. Best of luck everyone, and we'll be in touch soon.